What's up, y'all? Have you heard about the latest hit from the Second City? It's called The Devil is in the Detours, and it's being hailed as gutsy by the Tribune and another crackerjack cast of talented, charismatic performers, clearly creative and a joy to watch by the Sun-Times. That was very visual and descriptive. This is the Second City's 112th main stage review, and it's a hilarious and unhinged descent into a dimension where chaos reigns. The show runs Tuesdays through Sundays at the Second City in Old Town. Grab your tickets now at secondcity.com and go on and join the fun. Today on CityCast Chicago, President Biden is no longer running for a second term. I know you've probably heard it 1,000 times now, but what happens next and what does that mean for Chicago's DNC next month? Plus, we discuss some restaurant openings we're excited for and check in on the festival schedule this weekend. And helping me do it all, executive producer Simone Alisea. It's Tuesday, July 23rd. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Morning, Simone. How you feeling?
I'm okay, Jacoby. How are you?
I'm doing good, G. I ain't out here complaining. It was a solid weekend for the most part. Went to Pitchfork, saw, I think, the best performance I've seen in Chicago this year with Brittany Howard. And then other than that, I was playing a little bit of college football, went back to Daisies. It was a solid weekend. You do anything fun this weekend?
I was out at Montrose Beach for a minute, so got a little bit of sun. And I went out to a open mic at Uncommon Ground as well in Lakeview.
Come on, look at you getting outside.
I'm trying to. We're doing stuff.
So I got to ask you, when the alerts started popping up on your phone on Sunday morning, Sunday early afternoon, announcing that Joe Biden was no longer running, what was you doing?
Okay, I got to tell you, Jacoby, it was your text. You texted me, and all you texted me was, well. And I was like, oh my God, what happened? What happened? I was sitting on my couch.
Mark.
Yeah, I was sitting on my couch watching Riverdale, and it took you forever to respond. So, like, I had to go and look it up on Twitter. I was like, what is happening here? So that's how I found out.
I have a habit of that. I will text something, and then I will be lost in the weeds somewhere and forget to come back promptly. But obviously, we've been talking about DNC. We're prepping for it to come, but let's be real. Similar to the RNC last week, prior to the shooting at the rally in Pennsylvania, we weren't really thinking about the RNC. Obviously, we're thinking about the DNC here because it's here in Chicago, but we were largely talking about it as it's gonna go through what's the words we've been using, very
logistics, the traffic, what is the security perimeter gonna look like.
That's what we've been thinking about. But in terms of the actual DNC, just sort of political performance,
what's happening on the convention floor, yeah
everything's a foregone conclusion. We already know, right? Joe Biden's going through. But the winds started shifting even before this weekend. We talked about it last week that after his debate performances, I mean, he recently got diagnosed with COVID. He finally made what was still a very shocking announcement. Quickly after releasing that statement, Joe Biden endorsed now Vice President Kamala Harris to take his place as the Democratic Party's nominee. So, Simone, this convention is going to be anything other than routine. What happens next?
Yeah. So, right, this is the second week in a row we're talking about national news, which I don't love. It's not my favorite thing. But as you said, since the DNC is happening here, all of a sudden we have a much more interesting DNC potentially. After the announcement came down Sunday afternoon, we saw wave after wave of response from Democrats in Illinois and everywhere else. And it was so interesting because there were so many of those statements that were like, thank you, Biden, for your service. We know it's a hard decision. We respect your decision. But what a lot of those statements did not have early on Sunday afternoon into Sunday evening was they did not mention Vice President Kamala Harris, despite the fact that Biden had already come out and sort of made his endorsement. Now, Monday morning rolls around, And now everybody is closing ranks, right? Now,
Hey, Brandon Johnson will remind us. No,
in his statement
followed,
Sunday afternoon, he endorsed Kamala Harris.
He was on the Harris train.
Yes,
yeah.
but statements from Pritzker, statements from the Illinois Democratic Party, statements from the House Speaker in Illinois, various Congress people. There were some that did early, and then there were some it took a while. And Monday morning, you started to see the closing of ranks really, really officially happen. Pritzker came out and endorsed Harris. Speaker Emanuel Chris Welch endorsed Harris. The Illinois Democrats coming out.
Duckworth, Durbin.
What happens next is a little bit interesting because the Dems had already been planning to do a virtual roll call ahead of the DNC. Some issue around Ohio and ballot deadlines, and was there going to be a legal challenge? And there's a lot of questions around it, particularly when Biden was the nominee, because it felt like, oh, you're just trying to kind of rush him in. We don't know as of midday Monday if the virtual roll call will still happen. It seems like it might.
Like you said, because of the closing of the ranks, it feels like they might just continue as business as usual. Let's move this forward. Sort of the line of thought being, yes, you all put your faith in Joe Biden when you voted in the primary, but Kamala Harris was on that ticket.
And so if that happens, then Harris would essentially be the nominee even before the DNC happens. That said, if they don't go through with the virtual roll call, what will happen is an actual party convention, right? When we vote in Illinois' primary, we're not voting directly for a candidate. What we're voting for is to pledge delegates to a candidate. And it's technically the delegates, these party delegates, who are going to vote on who the party nominee is, right? And because Biden has dropped out, technically those delegates can vote for whoever they want. They don't have to vote for Harris, or they don't have to vote one way or the other. And so, if it were an open convention, you would see, if anyone else steps up as a challenger, you would see rounds of voting at the convention take place. But again, we just don't quite know as of yet, though it does seem that Democrats are locking it down real fast. Yeah,
there hasn't been an open DNC since 1968.
Oh, weird. Now we're talking about 1968 again, Jacoby.
Again.
Feels like we're always here.
And Chicago has had conventions since 1968.
Yes.
When you had the type of mayor sanctioned, right? Mayor Daley gave the police the ability to
violently quash protests. Yeah.
Right. That has been the legacy of 1968, but also in 1968, we saw something very similar to now, where an incumbent president chose not to follow through and run for a second term. And that was Lyndon B. Johnson. For all his legislative accomplishments, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Acts of 1965, Medicare and Medicaid. He was also the person who launched America into the highly opposed Vietnam War. You saw the growth in anti-war protests during that time on college campuses. Oh, man, do we have a growth in anti-war protests on college campuses right now? In 1968, throughout his term, I mean, from 65 to 68, you saw the growth in Black liberation protests. You saw the riots that took place after the assassination of MLK, RFK across the country. Man, are we having a growth in Black liberation protests across the country? Have we seen those in the last during Biden's term, right? And at the same time, those earlier accomplishments had major pushbacks. And you see the narrative around Biden being that he, despite his unpopularity, had a lot of success during his term. And that clearly not enough to carry him through. The faith seemingly lost on both sides. And so we are both in unprecedented times, but there is...
Is it though? Is it unprecedented though?
But it is not, right? But it is not. It's unprecedented for us, right?
For you and me, yeah.
Right. All of our worst days seem unprecedented, but they never truly are.
Yeah, it is very eerie, I think, because we had been invoking, and everyone, I think, sort of Chicago media writ large, Chicago writ large had been invoking the specter of 1968 again for the police response to demonstrators. And like the fact that now we are also seeing the VP, Herbert Humphrey, became the nominee, but Humphrey lost to Richard Nixon.
Yep.
And it was so wild because there, as you said, there was really no interest in what was going on the convention floor in Chicago, what's going to be happening at the United Center. And now all of a sudden it might matter. And again, it might not. They might do the virtual roll call and then we'll be back here being like, well, so now it's back to being uninteresting. Here's your traffic. Here's what you need to know. That's entirely possible. But we just don't know yet. As of now, we don't know.
In lighter news this month, there are some really exciting restaurant openings that you and I are looking forward to trying. Simone, up in your neighborhood, there's a cafe opening that you're really excited for. Give me a little bit of news on it. What's the story?
Yeah. So they're just having their soft opening this month. It's called Nabala Cafe in Uptown. It's a Palestinian-owned cafe on Broadway. And they came across my Instagram feed. And the big reason I'm excited is I feel like there's a real dearth of coffee shops, actually, sort of in this part of Uptown. There are a few, but they're kind of far between. And I was looking at their Instagram and specifically the pictures of the chai that they serve just look beautiful and just like luxurious. They have them on these trays in the pots and you can kind of see it. And then they've also got baked goods, savory pastries, and sweet pastries as well. I will say, I'm still holding out hope that somebody will open a coffee shop within walking distance of me that has a breakfast sandwich. I am my kingdom for a breakfast sandwich, guys. Anybody out there wants to open up a spot in Uptown that's got a solid breakfast sandwich that I can walk to within 15 minutes, that would be really, really helpful. But we'll see. I know everybody's coffee on Wilson has some bagel sandwiches that are not bad. First Sip Cafe on Argyle has them, but I'm there all the time. So I wouldn't mind another one.
I wish I would have known. My sister and mother were up there this weekend to see the Salon at Black Ensemble Theater, and we're looking for suggestions for other things to do. I wish I would have known that, but I got them next time they go up there. And now if you are thinking about going to see the Salon up there, you got a place to stop by as well.
I got a place to stop by. They have a community bookcase as well. They're partnering with Pilsen Community Books to fill that up as we speak. So yeah, like I said, it's very, very early opening. They just soft launch. And it's funny because another coffee shop just had their grand opening, Fat Milk on Broadway in Argyle, a Vietnamese coffee spot. However, they also don't have a breakfast sandwich. So I'm still waiting.
A place I'm excited to try soon is Marisco San Pedro. It was announced back in February that they'd be the restaurant replacing Do Sex in Talia Hall, which I didn't realize Talia Hall was over 130 years old, like the building.
I guess that tracks, though. It looks old.
It does, but I did not think of that.
Time, yeah.
But it's a place I go not only because I stop by Talia Hall for shows quite often, at least 3-4 times a year. But I was excited to find out what was going to replace. And it's a, sort of seafood inspired, a Latin American seafood restaurant. I really want to try the wood fried camarones with avocado and pineapple salsa. Ooh,
do they have a ceviche? So I am on the hunt for a good ceviche.
They do. They have two. They have a sort of a seafood blend and a snapper ceviche. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to try it out. I like the building. I like the neighborhood. But interestingly enough, across the street, SKY, which is a place we've featured in our Pilsen neighborhood guide. Remember when we sat down with Tanya Lozano and she talked about how much she liked going to SKY. And they always had an interesting story in the neighborhood because when they were coming in 2017, right, Pilsen is going through a wave of gentrification and it felt like another one of those restaurants that,
because it's kind of a higher end, finer dining, kind of spot.
Exactly. But over time, people seem to have in the neighborhood, some of the people in the neighborhood had embraced it. But now it looks like they've recently announced that they are moving locations to Lincoln Park. When I looked further into the story, the owner of the restaurant, I think has a deep connection to the location they're moving to. He used to work at or manage the former restaurant that was there. And so I really like the cornbread madeleines, the lobster dumplings that they had. And so I am going to miss them over in Pilsen because I usually went there in connection with going to Talia Hall or going to Punch House. It was sort of part of.
Well, now you can go to Mariscos.
Oh, right. I am excited for that. And that's also, I got another connection there because the team behind there is responsible for Obelix, which is like a French inspired restaurant, very popular. I went there for Taylor's birthday last year. And it's on a list that Sydney is doing of some French restaurants people can check out as the Olympics are getting started in Paris. And so,
yeah, in our newsletter, Hey Chicago, you can subscribe at chicago.citycast.fm. And also that's where you'll find this. Well, you've got, who's competing and list of French restaurants, all kinds of fun Olympic stuff.
I want to give a huge shout out to our friends over at Eater Chicago, who help us keep track of some of the restaurants that are opening, some that are closing. And that's where I learned about SKY closing. So yeah, shout out to them as well. Every week in July, we have been doing a weekly festival update brought to you by our sponsors over at Revolution Brewing. And Simone, the reason we've been doing this is because it's a lot to keep track of. I try to give people something every week. If you notice, I've been doubling up in the good news.
I know.
Some days, doubling, tripling up, trying to give people events. We've been doing more with our events calendar over at chicago.citycast.fm. Very proud of all of the work City Madden is doing to collect just events across the city for people. And here, keeping track of summer festivals, July has been, it's been the toughest month.
July is busy. As Michelle said, the Saturday of summer, which means it's the busiest day. So, right, I think last week we were like, this is probably the busiest weekend in Chicago festivals. This weekend is going to give it a run for its money. We've got Fiesta del Sol happening in Pilsen, Wicker Park Fest, which I know a lot of people are excited for. Chinatown Summer Fair is happening. The Market Park Taste of Chicago pop-up is happening this weekend. Bantu Fest. There's also the Taste of Lincoln Avenue in Lincoln Park. And so lots of festivals that are coming up this weekend. Have any that you're planning to go to?
I might stop by Fiesta del Sol this weekend. And then Jamila Woods is over at
Wicker Park Fest.
Wicker Park Fest. And so I'm going to pop up and watch that performance for sure. That's one that's been on my list. I believe even in June, I said that was one of my can't miss.
Okay, Jacoby. So I have a silly festival food question for you because this came up at a party that I was at this weekend where I was with a couple of folks who were from the UK and we were talking about, introducing them to the concept of fried butter and fried Kool-Aid and all kinds of fried fair foods. And one of them asked, what is a funnel cake? And I was trying to describe to them what a funnel cake was. And it was very difficult. So I would put the question to you, Jacoby. How would you describe a funnel cake?
It's like deep fried batter with powdered sugar and an assortment of toppings. So, but the way they make it is interesting because it's like they funnel the batter into the fryer while making when you take it out, it almost looks like webbing. You actually look at the pattern. It looks like a weird kind of spider web of, almost like pancake batter, but really crispy.
This is what I got to tell you, my friends were flabbergasted by this. They were like, what are you talking about? And they could not picture it. And they looked it up. And the minute they looked at a picture, they were like, why does it look like a brain?
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, wait, now I need like a Halloween version where they use pink batter and they put it with cherry sauce, Like I feel like I could really get behind that. They were also like, is the powdered sugar part of it? Why is that part of it? And I was like, I don't know, to make it sweet. Like this is how you eat it. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I've seen some that are really beautifully put into it. Put a really beautiful pattern that they try to get into the oil. And then most of the ones I've ever eaten, it looks a mess. Yeah, it just looks like a bunch of curly fries stuck together, or one long spaghetti noodle. That's how I
described it. I was like, it's like a plate of spaghetti that has been fried.
Yep. The best one is so good. Like having it late in the day when it is made, like if they're not making them fresh, where it's kind of dried out, it's just like they're sitting there. But fresh, not overcooked. It's still doughy, hot. It's so good.
Yeah.
I haven't finished one in so long, but I get it every time. Any of these that you're going to, because I've been to the pop-up, the taste pop-ups. I've been to Chinatown Summer Fair. That's amazing. I actually have one of the pictures on my wall is from the Chinatown Summer Fair in 2022. And so we were still coming out of the pandemic. So you still see people's masks in it. I've been to Wicker Park Fest yesterday. So I've been to all of the ones this weekend, Bantu Fest. Any of these that you're going to?
Look, I gotta tell you, I am trying to stay inside this weekend. I am so
You sound like
socialed
Greta.
out. I am so socialed out. I have talked to so many people in the past 3 weeks. I love my friends, but they've seen too much of me. And I'm done. I'm ready to. I would like to continue watching Riverdale since I was so rudely interrupted this weekend.
That's funny. You're funny for that one. I want to give a huge thank you to our executive producer, Simone Alisea. Another Tuesday in the books, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Jacoby.
Before you go on with the rest of your life, a couple of things. Please, please, please head over to chicago.citycast.fm. There you'll find our neighborhood guides, our helpful articles, and so much more great stuff, including what I'm going to talk about in our good news today. The Olympics kicks off this week, and our Hey Chicago newsletter editor, Sydney Madden, has gathered some watch parties across the city, the Chicago and Illinois athletes to root for, and some places to get that feeling of Paris in the city, obviously without the 8-hour flight. So please, again, head over to chicago.citycast.fm and subscribe to our daily newsletter, Hey Chicago. I'm going to be back bright and early tomorrow. Please join me. Please. Like, I really mean that. I know I say it every day, but like, I really mean it. Like, right here, tomorrow, wherever you are, whatever time, on whatever speed, I'm gonna be here. Peace.
And then it was funny because then my friend was like, "Isn't Kool-Aid the same thing as lemonade?" And I was like, "No."
No.
And she was like, "In what way?" And I was like,
It's cool.
It's not. It's not the same thing. I was like, lemonade
Kool-Aid
is made.
starts at powder.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was like,
We're already
lemonade is made with a fruit that you could pick from a tree. Kool-Aid is not that.